Okay.
Hello?
Okay.
Yeah, hello
Woo.
everybody. Welcome to episode, what, is this going to be 13 or 14? Is this 14?
I don't know. 14? I think so.
I think it actually might be 14. I'll just check the time while I'm doing this as well. You got is 14. Episode 14 of Slayhouse Review. We are certainly so sorry for those 10 of you who listen to us, which, like,
That's
by the
generous.
way, we have 10 followers on
true.
Spotify, and I will say, I feel like those 10 followers from Spotify are not people from my YouTube, so I feel like, you know, we should celebrate this milestone, maybe just a little bit. Yeah, like, cheers to that.
Like, cheers. Oh, you, let me.
So, we'll, take a sip of our donkeys for our 10 beautiful Spotify followers. Thank you so much for making our dreams come true.
Thank you so much.
But I do
love you.
Yeah. I do want to apologize for the 2-week absence, if anybody cared or noticed.
Right.
Devin was moving.
No one even noticed.
Yeah,
no one even fucking cares.
I know, it's like not one person left a comment on the YouTube video of the last
hey,
podcast being like, hey, where's the next episode, you guys? Is the podcast still happening?
Hey, are you guys
no
okay?
one cares. You know, life goes on, I guess.
Yeah, I was moving.
Yeah, Devin was moving. We couldn't find the microphones. We were just kind of fried. We've been kind of like deep fried for the past couple of weeks. I do kind of feel like Lena Dunham's change of pace. Okay. This Lena Dunham jump scare that just happened on your iPad.
Oh, right. Literally, like, when I was trying to load, with the ad blocker, the New Yorker, it, just brought me straight to a large photo of Lena Dunham.
Kind of looking at us disconcertingly, like...
Oh my god, what is she?
She is
went
pernicious.
Dark with the hair. Yeah, she really is. Okay, so let me...
I will say, every time I take that character, the big character, 500 question personality quiz, number one result is always Hannah Horvath, girls.
Yeah, that's not actually for me. It's, oh my god, it's the quirky, it's the quirky girl one.
From Girls?
No, not from Girls, but it's yeah. Oh, it's Fleabag.
Oh yeah,
it's Fleabag for me. Which,
I thought you were gonna say Ramona Flowers.
But then it does give me all sorts of. It gives me.
I know. I get Hannah Horvath. I get Jenny from Forrest Gump, the whore who dies of AIDS.
Yes, I get that one too.
I get the Breaking Bad character. That Kristen Ritter played. Yeah. You know, but the number one result is always fat ass.
That's
Lena
the quirky
Dunham.
girl I was thinking of. It was Jane from Breaking Bad. But.
Which, as we've established, I've never watched. Anyways. Okay, so in our absence, Deborah Treisman decided to prank both of us by making this I don't know if the New Yorker does this every year. This is really the first time I've ever consistently read the stories from the New Yorker, but allegedly this was the fiction issue. So they didn't come out with 2 issues the past 2 weeks because 1 week was the holiday week, but they gave us 4 stories to talk about. I only knew that there were 2 because what I always do is listen to the New Yorker Writer's Voice podcast first and then I'll read. But then we went to read and there are 4 stories including a Murakami.
And we're including Murakami, we're like, what do we do?
And so,
what do we do now?
Luckily, one of the stories that we did invest a lot of time into over these 2 weeks, and I've been doing the work, reading and thinking, you know.
I have been functioning with pretty much 1 brain cell.
And the thing is you actually have things going on in your life, you totally did.
Just move all by myself, without even a man that helped me, except for 1 time.
So I don't count as.
Oh no,
as we've established multiple times, a gay man in a moving situation does not count as a man helping you move.
You were actually quite literally the only man who helped me move. I would have to say.
My bicep looks really good in this lighting.
My sister was like, that is one thing that I think.
Wait, did she say I looked jacked? Did she say I was strong?
She was like, I just went down to the bottom of the stairs to help move the rest of the stuff, and I realized Marco was coming up with all of it in both arms. I was like, my bestie is Jack. My bestie is a man. Thank you very much.
So to fill all of you in, every time I help anybody move anywhere, everybody always asks me oh, are you sure you're going to be able to carry that? Even though, like, most people in my life
like,
know I've been, like, lifting weights.
Incredibly jacked right now,
But it's, like,
too.
this weird thing about being, like, gay and flamboyant. And listen, you guys know me. I'm not the kind of person who ever gets on my high horse about things like this. But they're always like, wait, let me help you. Are you sure you can lift that? And it's not just to be, like, courteous. It's they really don't think I can lift anything. So throughout Devin's move, I've been bringing this up so many times. And I don't ever want you to feel like you're, like...
Oh no, I actually
me with your...
don't, except that one time I said it in a really funny way, and I can't remember what it was. It was like, are you sure you can get that, babe? And it was like, you were carrying my entire AC, and it was like we were trying to get it out the window or something, and it was like, you were the only thing standing in the, like, between the AC crashing down 3 stories and, like, killing some
Lakeview gay.
Yeah, exactly.
And his dumb little rescue dog.
And a tiny little, terrier, but anyway.
And then I pulled that AC unit out of your window and I poured water all over your damn floor. Splash
Mine
zone.
too. Also yourself. Like you. That's why your
dripping.
T-shirt. That's what I'm giving you back. I think it was that time. No.
I think. No, it was when
it was the
same day because it was already.
You didn't even need to drive because whatever.
Anyways, unimportant.
Mark, you can't lift anything. Because
I can't because I'm gay and I'm weak and I'm fat. But the other weak person in this equation today is Sally Rooney and her weak talent for writing. So one of the stories, to continue, one of the stories out of the 4 that we got is a Sally Rooney novel excerpt. And Sally Rooney certainly gives the two of us...
Can you say that again, but slower? Like, Sally Rooney novel excerpt in the New Yorker. Okay, what the fuck is going on?
It's like,
I'm sorry.
And that's,
this
again...
is marketing space.
I will say, like, Deborah Treisman really is taunting us because this is...
A novel excerpt, too? It's like...
And it's not even one that I feel is compelling at all enough to stand on its own as a short story.
Weird.
And but the thing is like, it's not even just that the pacing is weird. It's like literally not a goddamn fucking thing happens and not a goddamn conclusion about life, about human nature, about the intricacies of intimacy forming between two outcasts. Like nothing. There's nothing at all.
For a story, too, exactly, that's all about relationships. There's simply no emotional arc, so there's no emotional payoff. And like, that's why it falls flat. And if she used fucking dialogue tags, I'm sorry, maybe she would get a little bit closer, but she can't because it gives us this stilted, weird, like Sally Rooney's got her hands in all the pies thing.
It's so
like,
me and
you can't unsee her.
We're first trying to read this on the 4th of July. We were waiting for fireworks, and we were sort of laying in this field surrounded by a bunch of suburban families. One of which a group of kids kicked the soccer ball like straight into Devin's face while she was reading this Sally Rooney story.
Right. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, so perhaps that's coloring our experience of this story.
Oh, and I just hit the weed pen too because it was like we'd settled in to wait on the grass and it was all parked and everything.
We're with these like stupid autistic people trying to fuck each other and like this like group of like raggedy like adolescent boys were like throwing a soccer ball straight at your face.
Hit me in the face, and I went ah, and it was really like I thought quaint and kind of girly and cute. Yeah, exactly. And these boys laughed at me.
I know.
To my face, also, I turned and made eye contact, and they were like, "Ha!" And I was like, "Sorry, like not even a."
And I didn't know what to do in that situation because I didn't want to like pipe up and then like have these adolescent like boys realize that I'm like a big fucking faggot.
Yeah, and
I like felt scared for my personal safety by the straight adolescent boys who kicked a soccer ball at us. But luckily, their Polish immigrant mother piped the fuck up and got them boys out.
She even marched over and was like, "You cannot play right here. It's too crowded." And this one little fucking shit, probably the one who hit me in the face, was like, "Everywhere's crowded." And she's like, well, "No, you can't fucking do that here." And then she walked by and said sorry to me, and I was like, "That's fine."
Yeah, thank you.
But I mean, all this to say, reading this Sally Rooney story feels like you're settling in. You're a little bit stoned. You're a little bit dissociated. And then you get hit in the face with a soccer ball, except nothing happens at all. So it's actually kind of the opposite.
And I guess that's kind of like the conclusion that this story ends up coming to at the end, where it's like, she was, whatever this fucking bitch's name was,
it meant everything.
And it meant nothing at the same time.
And that's the soccer ball that you realize, oh, Sally Rooney's just shitty.
Yeah, exactly.
The soccer ball is not anything happening in this story. I'm sticking to this extended metaphor for no reason.
I know, it's like, girl, we're taking it one foot at a time, one step at a time. We haven't recorded in 2 weeks.
Oh, it's
but I think we are pushing forward as best as we can.
I think our meta commentary is funny too.
Exactly.
Keep it going.
And it's like we don't even necessarily have to get into the plot, like a summary of this. Okay, basically the setup is this autistic, like, failure chess prodigy, former chess prodigy who is, like, actually not that great at chess now that he's an adult.
He's 22 and he's, like, leveled off. Like, he's, like, really good, but he's, like, not, like, the world-class level.
Yeah, he's not really competitive anymore, but he's certainly better than probably, like, I don't know, like 90% of people that play chess. That's the vibe we're getting. So he's doing this, like, exhibition, like, kind of, like, show type of, like, match at, like, a community art center somewhere in Ireland where he's, like, playing 10 local chess players at a time.
Like, simultaneously, like...
And
like that scene in, I mean, it's a straight ripoff from the Queen's Gambit Netflix show, by the way, too, in terms of, like...
Oh, of course it is.
Like, imagery and whatnot. They're in a community center.
And in her interview, Sally Rooney's like, yeah, these two characters just came to me. And it's like, oh, were you watching the Queen's Gambit at the time, Sally Rooney?
I was too. It was COVID and we were all, like, really depressed.
Were you watching the Queen's Gambit when suddenly this chess-playing character came to you?
I mean, this is called opening theory, and the Queen's Gambit is an opening move. Like, it's like, or some shit.
And, if only that Margaret is the protagonist, the woman. So the woman character is this, like, kind of failure in her mid-30s who is also, like, autistic.
She's in her early 30s.
Her early 30s, but she works as, like, the community organizer at this art center, and she, like, put together this whole, like, exhibition match with, like, the local chess club. And basically, these two, like, meet, and they're, like, both saying in a shifting, limited third-person narration that, like, oh, we can tell that we're, like, not like the other people, but, like, Ivan, the chess prodigy, is, like, is it creepy that I want to kiss her and cuddle with her? And she's like, is it creepy that I want to kiss him and cuddle him when I'm so much older than he is?
Yeah, that's...
And basically, I mean, like, that's the whole story. They, like, he wins the chess match, then they, like, go to a bar with the rest of the chess club.
Because she has to drive him to his hotel because he flew in from... somewhere else. And so, or like Airbnb.
Took a bus somewhere.
Yeah, so it's like they go hang out, they have a drink, then she's like, okay, I'll drive you, to your Airbnb, whatever. And then they, like, have this moment, and he's like, he starts, like, pursuing her, and she, like, sort of lets him, like, make some early moves of, like, they're, like, in his house, and she, like, stays for a drink or something, and then finally they, like, make out. And she's like, whatever. And then it turns out they fuck. And the next morning, she wakes up in his place, thinks that he's already left. And she's like, oh, thank God. Probably, like, lets out a couple farts or something. Yeah. And it turns out, like, Ivan was just in the bathroom taking a shower. And he's like, I didn't know whether to wake you or not. And she realizes, oh, like, this is, like, this person is much younger than me.
Similarly to how in Bozo, to throw back how that story would have really benefited from the protagonist just, like, furiously masturbating at the end of the story.
Right.
I really think what would have saved this was the story ends with Margaret being like, oh, maybe he's not here, and she's just, like, ripping ass, and then Ivan comes out and he's like, this is really, really stinky, like, what have you done? And then she goes, maybe the events in my life don't mean anything.
Right.
Maybe there is no reasoning towards one thing to another, which is basically the conclusion that the story ends on, which... It's like, and I'm left feeling, okay, maybe there is no reason for me to read anything you've ever written ever, Sally Rooney. Maybe there isn't any reason for me to ever defend you ever again, Sally Rooney.
The thing that is so funny to me as well is, like, when we get towards the end and, like, this character, Margaret, I mean, I find her compelling, especially as a woman, like, in my, about to be in my early 30s.
Internalized misogyny, once again, I'm going to put my internalized misogyny hat. Well, I guess it wouldn't be internalized misogyny. I'm not a woman. It would just be regular old misogyny. Putting my misogyny hat on. I guess, like, I don't care about her. Is it because I hate women?
That is the thing, is, like, okay, so this character, it's, like, had actually a lot of makings to be kind of compelling in terms of, like, I am interested in, like, what makes a 35-year-old woman want to sleep with a 22-year-old man, because I am not interested in doing that, so I'm curious. Mm-hmm. And she was inching up on something. She got to this point, it's like, they fucked, and she's like, it doesn't, who's to say what one moment from another, like, she was so close to just sending it into full.
And
it doesn't mean fucking anything.
This is the thing.
And then Sally Rooney, the hand of God comes in. The Sally Rooney, like, narrative entity is like, you know, actually, it meant a lot. She just wasn't sure. It was something new. And, like, that's where you lose me, because it's, like, literally so fucking close to just, like, sending it into full, like, you could go absurdist after that and, like, you know, make a lot of interesting things happen.
Sorry,
but it reads like a 10th grader. You're caught.
Thank you.
It reads like a 10th grader who just discovered, like, existentialism for the first time and is trying to apply it retroactively to a story that they wrote, you know, perhaps during COVID.
And the thing that really gets me, and it's like, you know, and I tend to, like, jokingly kind of suggest this sort of thing for every story that we read, but it's like she is seriously such a convenient example for, like, the milquetoast sensibility of, like, what popular commercial literary fiction is, where it's like, why am I here reading about this very, I think, basic sort of like pedestrian
surface
kind of
treatment,
and it's like,
no,
when there are so
payout.
many opportunities to push this and make it into something interesting,
compelling, perspective.
And I guess I understand the kind of argument for, like, representation if you want to, like, really capture, like, the realism of, like, a woman who might be going through this situation, what she, like, really, what a real person may have been feeling if Margaret was a real person and this was perhaps, like, a memoir. Like, sure, I could see a woman having kind of, like, restrained, sort of underdeveloped emotions about this sort of thing, but, like, this is a work of fiction which you are creating and I am reading. You can take it to somewhere that's a little bit more juicy, that has a little bit more, I don't know, intrigue to it. And so when I was playing this in the car and I was trying to, I mean, I don't know about you, but I tried not only listening to this story multiple times, but reading it multiple times. And, like, I don't think I ever was able to actually finish this in one go. Like, when I was playing it in the car after, like, a long drive up from, like, a hiking destination that was, like, an hour away with Lucas, I had to, like, stop it because I was just like wow, 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 like, wow, blah, 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 like, get to the fucking point, Sally Rooney. And I'm just, anyways, to finish the thought, I was thinking, like, when Lucas was in the car and I was playing this and I was asking him to listen because sometimes I like to hear what he has to say about, like, literary fiction. He was like, I can't even pay attention to this because it's so fucking boring and she's taking such a long time. And then I was thinking, like, God, you know, this story would have been even more interesting if Ivan was, like, 17.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
And she slept with a 17-year-old. I mean, like, and I'm not even someone who, like, you know, pushes for, like, you know, taboo age.
Just for the sake of, like
why don't we just, like, bring up the dynamic here? Like just
what you're
add something.
Absolutely saying is, like, there's no actual real stakes here, because the thing about fiction is, and I totally follow this train of like, maybe she's like, this is like an average woman, so perhaps she doesn't have, like, super, like, intellectualized, like, or super, like, emotionally unhinged feelings, because some people out there in the world can't relate, but, like, are not emotionally unhinged. However, when you're writing fiction, art is always larger than life, so that, like, the impression that you get is lifelike, right? You have to go over the top in order to make something feel real, because this is obviously not real. This is a piece. These are words on a page.
Fully constructed.
We know it's constructed. That's the whole point of art, is that you know it is constructed.
And so, like, I don't know why.
So you have to go higher. And what she does without dialogue tags, there's no rhythm. It cuts, like, no rhythm, no kind of humorous, idiosyncratic language, because all of it comes from the voice of the narrator. You can't get any punchiness. You can't get any vibe. You can't. It just actually, like, neuters the entire piece and bleeds it pretty dry.
Not to, like, go full, like, kind of UIC pilled, like, workshop, but like, truly, there is, like, a deep problem with the way that Sally Rooney writes perspective and point of view.
Also in present tense, which makes no sense to do to feed it through the voice of the narrator anyway. The only time that this would make sense is if you're, like, Catherine Dunn, for example, like, when Toad, she goes back and we know it's her telling her memory of her, like, time in the 70s or whatever. But there's no time differential here between when it's happening and what we're being told is happening. And again, not to over-theorize this, but it really actually doesn't work, because it makes no sense to not have dialogue tags then.
And,
shouldn't we be experiencing it then?
And I really do think that, like, there are certain applications where sort of, like, loosely defined terms of perspective and narration work with certain kinds of pieces. But Sally Rooney is a social fiction writer who is concerned first and foremost with character relationships rather than setting any kind of ambiance. And for what she's trying to accomplish with her writing, this is just like not the way to go about it. It makes it a slog. And no dialogue-heavy social fiction needs to have rhythm, snap, and it needs to read quick, or else it's unreadable. I couldn't fucking get through this.
Because we don't care. We do not care about this woman.
I don't care about these people. Exactly. And why the fuck should I care about these people when I'm not given any reason to think that either of them are interesting? Why? Because you're going to, like, lightly allude to the fact that both of them may be on the autism spectrum. That's another example of just Sally Rooney refusing to take things where they need to go. It's like, okay, you're going to give us, like, 3 or 4 like very vague lines that both of them, that's like, I could tell that both of us were not like the others around us. Like, okay, so they're
they even converse about it lightly, like, I have trouble sort of, like, connecting. Like,
and he's like, and when Ivan's talking about his brother, that's like another part. Ivan has like a brother that he alludes to, and I guess the wider novel, from reading the interview that Sally Rooney did about this piece, the novel's more so about his brother, I guess. So maybe that's why this was chosen as the excerpt. It's just stupid, and it's like, and I feel also like additionally kind of like offended at like my tastes offended by this like light allusion to autism, because it's like, this is territory, especially within like writer spaces and like writers on Twitter, like type of spaces, like autism, people being autistic, the whole Tao Lin thing. Like, this is now well-tread territory where you like lightly alluding in like a couple of lines to autism. It's like, it's not like cheeky or unique or like thought-provoking in any way, because people have been like talking about autism as like writers,
like treated like intellectually here, when it's like, if you're gonna do it, it should be a part of the character like everything else. Like, don't make it, it's not an intellectual like site to have sort of weird like discussion about social relationships. It's like, make it part of the character, and then it becomes real. It's
and if we were to like just completely remove this detail, like, I don't get that. Like, maybe Ivan, I would like maybe say like, oh, maybe he's on the spectrum because he's like a chess prodigy or something. But the interaction between the two of them just seems like two kind of like awkward, kind of like uninteresting people who want to have sex and are unable to figure out how to do so because they've never had sex in their lives. You know, it's like I just. And with Sally Rooney, there's like a whole other thing, and we've invoked her, I think, a couple of times on this. And I really, when I first started considering writing seriously, Sally Rooney's debut novel, before she became kind of the star that she is, before the Normal People adaptation kind of pushed Sally like straight into the spotlight, Conversation with Friends was like kind of poorly received. It had a bad score on Goodreads, and I picked it up for that reason, and I was really compelled by it. I was like really excited by the work she was doing, the way she characterized like her protagonists, this, that, and the third. And so I've kind of, and mind you, I have not.
I should actually.
And I still probably think if I were to read the rest of her novels, which I was going to read another one in preparation for recording this, but I didn't, whatever, it is what it is.
Okay. We can investigate.
And I am like 100% sure if I were to read her other 2 books and then read this one, like that, her first novel probably would still be her strongest work, because she at least pushes the envelope a little bit there, because all of the characters are really unlikable kind of like losers. Whereas
which
in
is
this,
at the time too that came out,
it was something exciting.
There's something to be said there.
And I, me finally reading My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which 2019, again, it really set the tone for what came after it. But Sally, instead of kind of like progressing and kind of like digging deeper into the niche, which I think would have been great for her, she, sold out after the Netflix adaptation, or the Amazon Prime, was it? Or was it like Apple TV? Who knows?
Prime.
After the adaptation did really well, and I guess you can't fault her because she's making bank, but it's like, all these years.
Making bank and still doing fun shit, though.
Yeah. Very true. I mean, and Otessa sold the rights for 2 of her books. So she's making money.
She had the movie come out, and then has 2 of the other books are under contract, so she sold them.
And she was able to maintain her artistic
integrity. Her vibe. The other thing that I find so funny about this is exactly what you're saying, is that in the interview with Sally Rooney, she likens actually her own work as a writer to basically this guy Ivan, the chess guy, who, in his own words, he was really good and then again leveled out, and he's like not amazing. But she's saying, I want to continue to keep improving, and I feel like his desire to keep getting better is like something that I'm doing in my writing. But it's really funny because she then, inherently invites the comparison that she has just flattened out, and she's basically a 22-year-old just sort of stagnated.
Stilted, yeah.
It's which is hilarious because somehow she's conceived of this project as building on her abilities as a writer, but as you just said, her first work is probably still gonna always be the strongest.
And it's
because she doesn't have that other cultural thing to lean on anymore.
And I've always felt and I've said this multiple times leading up to the recording of this episode, I've always felt really compelled to defend Sally Rooney from what I would say the predominant sentiment about her online, at least in writer type spaces, is people do consider her to be kind of a hack who has a bunch of undeserved success. And I've always felt very kind of precious towards her because conversations with friends really did mean a lot to me in developing my own craft. But this is the first story we've done for this series where I just literally was unable to finish it no matter how many times I tried.
Yeah, you were I was yeah, they did have sex. I'm that's it.
It took me...
Because it was
yeah, I think it was literally about... I think it was the fourth attempt I made to get through the story before I actually ended up finishing it. Because it was just such a drag.
And I was sighing the whole time sitting on that blanket. Actually, after I got hit in the head with a soccer ball, I was just
delirious,
oh really?
Angry, anxious, having to deal with Sally Rooney's bullshit.
Yeah, needed a cigarette, couldn't smoke one.
And well, yeah, let's talk a little bit about other things in this interview, because I think there was, and it's so funny, if you compare, I think the, telltale sign of a good writer versus a not so good writer in these New Yorker interviews is the writers who go at length in their answers about their stories have written worse
We've
stories.
Always said this, and I stand by this.
I do too, and I think the Sally Rooney interview further proves this, because I was reading this and I was wow, the way she's talking about this story, actually you would think that the piece would be somewhat compelling, but no. And Cressida Lation, did this interview with Sally, sweet. And she tries to kind of push Sally in the direction to say maybe this shifting third person narration is both of them are playing a game of chess with each other. Yeah. And Sally Rooney immediately is no, I wasn't really considering that.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
I guess cunty on Sally Rooney's behalf, but it's come on, work with me here, girl.
Her up for big success there because she's okay, we're gonna put this out in the New Yorker. This, this person who is very, controversial.
But it's as you said when we started, this is very clearly just marketing space, the New Yorker, and there's no reason why they needed to run a novel excerpt which was hard to read by Sally Rooney. And it's also kind of pisses me off because Sally Rooney, I think she really is at the point of her career where if she comes out with a novel, a good amount of people are going to buy it regardless. People know the name Sally Rooney now. And you know what? The last time Sally Rooney put out an awful book, they did the same thing. They published an excerpt of it. I remember it was it was the Big World, Beautiful People book or whatever it was called. And I remember reading the short story years ago. I think this was 2021, where it was all about this HR worker who was emailing her coworkers about communism or something, and I just remember back then also rolling my eyes and being are you still writing about this kind of well-tread territory, Sally? I don't know. Deborah Treisman really has a hard-on for her, and I think it's time we let her just exist in the space of Target hardcover fiction for moms and girls who are picking up books on a Target run. And if Sally just wants to exist in that space, more power. Like, absolutely, make your money. You know, it's like...
Can you just vacate this space that you're taking up in the literary community, though? Like, just pack it up, girl.
And it's fine. Taylor Jenkins Reid does not get this space because everybody understands where she is in the marketplace, and she thrives in that space. Yeah, she's had like 6 hit novels for the Target hardcover crowd, and they don't run her shit in the New Yorker because they don't need to. It's the same with Sally Rooney. She does not need to be given this space. We do not need to be interviewing her about her work as if she's doing interesting work.
I mean,
as if it's
ChatGPT
anything
could
to
have
discuss.
A more compelling response to the interview questions.
Absolutely. Like, that would be a fun exercise, actually.
Yeah, we should try it. Run those through.
I do. Okay, so you didn't read any other stories.
I read the Murakami. But
How long was that?
Pretty short.
I
actually really liked it, but
I do want to touch on the other story that I read for this week, which was The Hadal Zone by a woman named Annie Proulx, who I guess she's like, you know, she's another deathbed authoress bitch. She's 88 years old. This is the other archetype of New Yorker fiction. It's like Irish people or like women on their deathbed.
That's so true.
And I will say,
slay, like,
I actually ended up really, really liking this story, and I think the two of them, like the Sally Rooney compared to this one, are like a good contrast between like a story which might not on its surface be like the most like flashiest of stories, but when you think about it, kind of like the consolation story, the dad who kept cheating on his wife. It's like, you know, it gives you something to chew on and think about. And I listened to that one twice, and I read it once, and each time I left, you know, thinking about like the tools she was working with, the imagery throughout, and you know, it was.
They're going to Boston. Wait, okay,
it's like a whole thing. It's like, so basically it's this couple, and like the wife, whose name is Corolla, strangely enough, like ends up owning this like historic estate, and then like some like huckster kind of scam guy like comes in and like convinces her to like rent it out as like a historical property for his like historical like tourism company, but he ends up being like a scammer who like steals the wife from the guy, and while he's like stealing the wife, he's like sending the husband out all over the like world to seek other like historic properties for his company. But it turns out the gag is this guy, his historic tourism business is a front for his air conditioning business. And he convinces old women with like historic properties to spend like millions installing air conditioning from a company that he owns. So he makes all this money by like convincing old women to update the air conditioning in their historic properties so they can become tourists. And it's actually, there's a lot of like I really liked the way she was playing with like time and how things are constantly shifting, and history is like lost but also misinterpreted but also like wiped off the face of the earth, and it just all kinds of like interesting things. But I will say, you know, not to sound like a total dork for all of my discussion of this one story, one common trope in all of the deathbed authoress fiction stories that we've read in the New Yorker is, even though the story itself is completely unrelated to this concept, they always have to insert a jab about like wokies ruining America. Some character has to make some remark about how everybody's just too woke. And it happens a couple of times in this story. And I'm like,
really funny.
Yup, this was written by an 88-year-old woman on her deathbed. And what she hates more than anything is the wokies ruining America. And she's gonna let you know, even though it really does not have much to do with the story at hand.
She just, you know, she's gonna slip it in there.
And you know what? The wokie, the like jab at the wokies in this story was actually quite funny. It was like the guy, the husband, he's like coming back from Iceland on a flight, and he's like opening the window on the plane, and the woman sitting in front of him is like accosting him for having like the window open, and she keeps going like, you need to close your window.
Oh, the window shade?
Yeah. Okay. And then he gets off the plane, and the woman like tracks him down, and she's like, well, the reason why I wanted you to close the window is because the in-flight movie was one of my son's movies, and he got shot in a nightclub shooting, and every time I see it on a plane, I have to watch it to remember my son. And then the guy goes to the plane lady like, well, I hope you get over that someday. And she shouts at him, you woke people think you know everything about America, don't you? And I was like, that's so great. That's great.
Incredible. Okay.
And I just, and it's
wild.
It's just the difference where it's like, yes, both of these stories are generally kind of, but I actually can't even say this about this Annie Proulx story because a lot did end up happening over the course. Like, she jam-packed a lot into the space she was given compared to Sally, who did nothing with the space she was given.
Sort of stretched every fucking sentence to be like the most torturous and boring.
And there was nothing. There's nothing there. There's no cunty moment. Whereas Annie Proulx was given more than enough space than what was probably necessary for a short story, but she took advantage of it by jam-packing character moments,
Good for her.
weird little things, settings, musings about different,
Wait, she wrote Brokeback Mountain.
What? Oh my god, the way it's literally right on the Wikipedia page that I'm looking at. Oh, okay,
First
I get this.
publication in the New Yorker in 1997 was Brokeback Mountain.
Oh. So her
Slay.
short story Brokeback Mountain was adapted. I feel so stupid talking about her as...
Wait, she's so slay.
Which I've actually never seen Brokeback Mountain, but yeah, I mean, incredibly talented writer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I initially had rated it a 3 out of 5, but I bumped it up to a 4 out of 5. Definitely not my favorite thing we've read, but I really, really... And you know what? One thing I've come away with from this series is I've actually developed a new respect for authoress on her deathbed fiction. I come away from each story thinking, like, initially like, oh, whatever, this old bitch needs to just die already. But then I think about it more and I'm like, yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
She got another good one before she got to go. And you know what?
Because they know it, too. It's the same thing with Carol Oates. It's like, she's going to do her thing. She's going to sprinkle her little, flair on it. But it's going to be good.
Exactly. And if you're going to take up this space, you might as well put your pussy into it. Right. And I can tell just looking at pictures of this bitch that she is a nightmare. I bet she is a nightmare to deal with.
I'm sure.
And in her interview with the New Yorker, she was like, so dismissive of all of the questions, kind of like, I read it with like a roll in my eyes, I could feel her kind of feeling like, oh god, like this is so tedious, and
I'm definitely
gonna
read the story now, actually. And
what about the Murakami? What'd you think of the Murakami?
It sort of let me down at the end, but I actually was really vibing with it. Let me just...
Is he alive?
Yes.
Was it a new story? I wonder who translated. Wait, he speaks English.
He speaks English, but it is a translation.
Oh,
I think he mostly writes in.
Oh, is it?
In Japanese, but wait.
I know nothing. I honestly know nothing about him. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking of Kazuo Ishiguro that writes in English.
Oh yes, that is exactly
He's the one who writes in English.
But no, let me just.
He's British.
Okay, hold on.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I need to pull it up because I can't butcher the first line because it's actually, I was kind of gagged.
And while you pull it up, I will mention, yes, I am so fascinated by the Neil Gaiman sexual assault claims, and I do want to review it for. I know I've read nothing about it, and I would love to. It's like a podcast series, and I feel like it would be fun to have a spin-off show where we review the series.
I think that actually would be.
But I think it would be kind of delving into Red Scare territory,
I know, right?
Giving commentary on someone's vulnerable account of their sexual assault by prominent author Neil Gaiman.
Right, which is also just.
I brought this up to Lucas. I was like, oh, I'm sure Amanda fucking what's her fucking name?
Who? Okay, ready?
The girl Anachronism. Yeah, read the first
line.
Ready
for the first line? I've dated all kinds of women in my life, the man said, but I have to say I've never seen one as ugly as you. So,
Sally Rooney would fucking never.
I know, that's why I read that and I was like, oh, thank God, at least they, when they publish 4 stories at once, at least there's at least one of them that at least tries to go there. Now I know there's at least 2. But, it falls a little bit flat towards the end, but it is, it's got that sort of slightly sort of bizarro quality. I don't want to say full-on surrealist, but it's a little bit, it's oddball in their dialogue and
And again, I think it just really harkens back to what we've been saying is when you're writing fiction, you're literally making something up.
Yes.
You can push it because you're the one making it up. It's not real. This is all created. So why not have a little fun? Be a little cheeky.
What people
do something.
don't understand is that the stuff that hits you know, it's not necessarily the most realist, because realism is an aesthetic just like everything else is.
Yeah.
What it feels the most real isn't necessarily what looks the most real on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And it's absolutely true. You need a vibe to carry it from an artifact into some sort of like
Theory
feeling about
down.
You know, being alive in the world. And you know, if you have a specific vibe, it's like that helps make that come to life. But
anyways, I was thinking of Amanda Palmer, who was, you know, Neil Gaiman's long-term wife and partner. You know, one half of the Dresden Dolls, kind of like menace at large Amanda Palmer.
Controversy though about their divorce, right?
I don't remember if there was a controversy about their divorce, but Amanda Palmer certainly has enough of her own controversy, so I guess at the end of the day, like, the two of them maybe really did belong together. They're too nasty. But I asked Lucas, I was like, I wonder how Amanda Palmer is like reacting to all of this information about Neil Gaiman being like a serial sex pest, and she's like, and he said, well, she just posted a picture of her pussy on Instagram, and I was like, well, good for Amanda Palmer.
Well, you know, clearly there's something in the water. Maybe these people.
I am the girl anachronism.
Oh,
did you ever listen to Dresden Dolls? Did you ever listen to anything Amanda Palmer?
No, I didn't.
I was actually quite a big fan in high school, which is like, I remember I read her memoir and everything, and
I'm familiar with her Wikipedia page. It just she always like comes up somehow for me, so I like know who she is, but
she is kind of like the most well-connected like nobody. Like for some reason she's always invoked, and it's like, okay, well, what does she have to show for her life? Like truly, I think the one cultural contribution Amanda Palmer has is that first Dresden Dolls album.
Right.
I don't think she's done anything else of note, but it's like for some reason NPR's like always talking. Well, not so much anymore, but like in the 2010s, like I feel like NPR was always for some reason talking about fucking Amanda Palmer.
That actually like strikes me as very true.
Overrated boy.
The cult fan base, crowdfunding websites. Oh yeah, because also known as Amanda fucking Palmer, right? AFP or whatever.
Palmer has said that she is bisexual, telling After Ellen in 2007, I'm bisexual, but it's not the sort of thing I spend a lot of time thinking about. She has spoken about her open relationships and has spoken out on feminist issues.
Oh, didn't Neil Gaiman, didn't he like fuck off somewhere to like an island and not come back? Like with wasn't that his previous wife? Yeah, his like first wife. It's like, I feel like he like, there was some story about how they like went to New Zealand and he just sort of like dropped off the map or something.
You know what the fucking thing is? It's like these kind of guys that write magical realism, these like cinnamon roll dweebs, like they really do always end up being like these nasty, nasty, nasty people, and it always is a projection to like write this like whimsical, cute fiction in order to like hide their like nasty, their internal nastiness. So I absolutely believe it.
It's just like what's his fucking Woody Allen? I mean, it's like
exactly.
It's like,
but at least the thing about Woody Allen though is, I feel like throughout all of Woody Allen's work, he was always upfront about the fact that he's a slime ball. Like if you watch any Woody Allen movie, like his self-insert character is always like awful, nasty, like gross.
Yeah, that's actually very true. It's like sort of like the next generation of that, where it's like, I'm just nerdy and nobody likes me because I'm nerdy.
There's no integrity
it's like,
to it.
You're kind of like just a slime ball. Well,
I've never read anything of his. I don't think Neil Gaiman.
I really haven't either. There was a whole.
He's got a really long Wikipedia page. Litigation, personal life, accusations of sexual assault, other personal relationships. Jesus Christ. There's so much information in the world about Neil Gaiman.
I mean, he's actually quite, I feel like, enigmatic of a
I wonder what his cock looks like. I wonder if that podcast will describe in detail his penis. Probably not, because other people have, taste and, kind of like operating honor and values. Oh my god, selected awards and honors. Look at the long list of honors he's gotten on his Wikipedia page. It's like the largest part of his Wikipedia page. Are you kidding me? Again, another thing which we always say on this podcast, it's like when you throw someone one like big prestigious fiction award, like what is the fucking point of then throwing them the rest of the prestigious fiction awards all throughout their life for every book that they publish? He can't actually be that good of a writer.
Well, it's because these are also all like fantasy
That's so true, and those dorks love awarding dorks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, honestly, and I mean another thing that
and these are children's. There's also a lot of children's book awards in here. So well-tread
territory again for this podcast is it's like in order to succeed within like the publishing industry, within being like the like world of being a fiction writer, like you are best suited for success if you just have like this like dumbest, like most like put on contrived nerd personality.
I know.
You know,
yeah.
like the nerdier and like more earnest you pretend to be, the like everyone will just throw money and awards at you because you're so sweet and you write such
Right.
nice, interesting fiction, and we want to give you all the money in the world for it. Like, fuck yourself. Well, I think we've been recording actually for quite a bit.
Slay.
Because
Okay.
I think, well, let me see.
Well,
Any parting thoughts?
No, I feel like it was good that we actually touched on multiple stories. We made a dent in like the whole.
I know. We'll go back to a regularly scheduled programming
Yeah,
this
I think
week.
Great. Slay.
Slay.
Okay. Well.
Yeah. Thank you
cool.
guys so much for listening.
As usual.
Do all the podcast things. Tell all of your friends how much you love listening to
smart we
us.
are about
What you need to
celebrating.
do is like you need to like next time you like meet up with any of your friends, just like put this on in the background and be like, oh my god, it's like so funny, and just like I don't know, try to gaslight the people in your life to also listen to us, because we do want to make some money, and it would be like so hot if we could. Anyways, okay, bye, whatever. Mwah.